The following presentation contains content that will offend the virtue signaling of both the left and the right, and may be a very fake threat to the fake news of our fake democracy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Paradigm Shift.
An educational comedy.
It's not a cause, not a movement.
It's not a social group you can slap a label onto.
It's an idea. It's an intention.
It's an intuition.
A mindset in which reality can be explored.
It's a genuine expression,
Discernment.
critical thinking, and imagination.
To look inward upon ourselves.
To better understand the external world around us.
And yes,
Few egos are bound to be bruised.
With our silly, zany, politically incorrect,
George Carlin built a style of going about things.
real and raw honesty.
which invites you to be
To the fullest.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of Paradigm Shift, an educational comedy. Happy New Year, happy 2020. Hey! Maybe we're gonna have 2020 vision. I don't know. And of course, I'm Dave Kelso, and we are here visually with Jasamine Martin, Lauren Tull, and Richard Hamilton, and on audio only, we have Kristen Meyer.
Hello.
So, we are, the first episode of the year is always the same. It's always to talk about, what's kind of going to be up and coming for the next year generally. Like, obviously we can't make like specific predictions. I don't have like a crystal ball that works, but just as far as, the way all the energies and probabilities and whatever way you want to phrase it seem to be going, then we can usually get a pretty good gauge on it. So of course, I want to kind of put up the usual disclaimer that anybody who's looking to remain locked tight into a particular paradigm or bubble and is, going to flip their shit if I use any particular word in a way that they don't like or whatever, blah, 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 that, this probably isn't the video for you. You should probably, go watch, Star Wars trailers or My Little Pony or something. But for those of us who are grown-ups who can handle civil discussion and, explore ideas, this is definitely the video for you. And, 2018 was the year of darkness, so all that dark stuff was explored for 2018. 2019 was the year of light, and oh man, we've had everything from Epstein to talk about the bright light shining, just illuminating on all the stuff that was creeping around in the dark. So now with this year of expansion, I guess you could kind of say it's going to be like 2018 plus 2019 on steroids on crack, but it's really about creating these positive opportunities for positive change within the negative. There's not really gonna be much choice in the matter, and I think that there's going to be a lot of positive expansion. I've already kind of started seeing it even so far. And for those who are familiar with Cryon, well, for those who aren't, that's channeled stuff. If you don't know what channeling is, go look it up. But regardless of who does or does not believe in that sort of stuff, Cryon tends to be a really straight shooter, kind of matter of fact in the presentations, and the stuff he's been saying about 2020 through the course of 2019 is kind of all the stuff that we've been alluding to about 2020 since long before that.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Cryon of Magnetic Service. 2020 is coming. It's a year I told you last week that would be difficult because it would expose duality. The dark and light would start to show itself more than ever before. It would be difficult because inappropriate things would start to show. Almost like the dirt would start coming out of the cracks, and some would be afraid, but others would realize that it had always been there. And you would see it in your politics more even than you see it now. You would see it worldwide in many countries who may very well lose their leaders yet again because of inappropriate actions that they used to do in the dark that they cannot do today. We told you that corporations would start showing inappropriate things, big ones, huge awards being given that may very well topple some inappropriate pharma. That is in store for 2020. It's about revelation, and at the same time you learn today that it is a cycle ending and beginning. It doesn't mean that there's going to be another war. Instead, what it means that you have the opportunity to come to this decision with a higher consciousness to make things different, and maybe, just maybe, the end of war. I said it before. Humans on the planet do not want to suffer or go through the horror of something called human nature. And now for the payoff, the big statement. Human nature, dear ones, is not static. You were told that it was only because that's all you've seen a certain way. The new alignment of the grid allows for higher consciousness, and that changes human nature. Human nature that is a new human does not automatically go to war. Did you hear that? That's the difference. And that's why I'm here.
So it's rather interesting. And right now, we're kind of living in this world where just, things are so shaken up, like all the old systems that do not serve, that are causing lots of problems, be they political or be they any other type of system, are starting to fall apart. And this is what happens when more positivity enters in, ironically enough. Whether you want to call it the raising of the frequency of reality, as the New Agers like to say, or, the Christ consciousness, or whatever way you want to phrase that. When you've got positive change moving in, it's almost kind of like weather, like a storm front. You've got a pressure front moving in. You've got a different temperature moving in. There's going to be a bit of a storm. And so 2020 is, I think, just going to be this really interesting storm as more positivity comes in, as more of this light, higher frequencies, whatever you want to call it. And all of the stuff that just does not serve, that, just business as usual cannot continue. And the old structures have to fall apart, and new and better things have to come into place. Like, we don't have any choice at this point. It's got to be this way. That's going to be the beginning of this process. And, the year of expansion, in my opinion, is leading into the decade of expansion. So, having nothing to do with Greta Thunberg and her panic attacks, humanity, as we've known it, really only does have until about 2030, because after that, we're either going to go to a really, really good direction or the opposite of that. And, the choice is ours. So no matter which happens, they aren't wrong about 2030. Like, it has nothing to do with Greta Thunberg's panic attacks and hyperbolic, the world is ending, chicken litter, whatever. No, it's...
chicken litter.
Chicken litter.
Yeah. Well, she is Chicken Little's chicken litter, but yeah, that's besides the It's kind of funny. She's had so much backlash, mostly in the form of memes, that she's taken a break from activism to go seek anger management therapy or something, from what I've heard. And I've seen the funny memes where like you've got it to where Greta's on there, picture of her with her luxury yacht and everything, and being quoted, your empty words ruined my childhood. And then you've got like the African slave labor, like the 7-year-olds digging ditches and stuff, and the captions like, "Oh, must have been traumatizing," like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and so within PSEC especially, and within this coming year, we are going to be focusing on all the stuff everyone's been afraid to talk about. And because we are going to be doing it in the most positive, in the most uplifting, the most true positive light that we can possibly shine, that true positivity, I'm fully confident that most people are going to view it as negative, as nihilistic, as hateful, as fatalistic, as hate speech, as whatever, because
all of the above.
yeah, because like that's what seems to happen. You point out something positive, you say, "Hey, this negative thing is going on, but let's come together for solutions. We can do this. We have the power." You're so negative. Like, did you miss the point where I said we had the power? Like, we could come together. We could do that. You're so negative. Shut up, because you said fire's hot. It's like, okay, whatever, man. So, it's just like, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of reactions, to us in that. But hey, I'm going to shine my light. Which also means we're not going to be talking so much about how the criminals run the world and the elites and all that. Like, except for the little bit of residual communitarianism topics we still have to cover, because I promised Lark that we would. Other than that, it's like, if you want to know about that stuff, go look at the 2017, 2018, 2019, like those videos are there. Go look at those. We're going to be moving in some different directions now. Sure, we're going to acknowledge the criminals. Yeah, they exist. We're going to acknowledge Clown World, but we're not going to really harp on it. We're going to look into the nitty gritty of the specifics of the dichotomies and the dialectics and the psychology and spirituality of it, and just kind of looking at things like what positivity actually is and isn't, what unconditional love actually is and isn't, because there's just so many people that are like, "Oh, I'm unconditionally loving, I'm positive, blah blah blah," and you kind of put that to the test, and by their works you shall know them, and it's just like they don't really react well.
I relate to that so well.
Yeah, it's just instantly hypocritical, and I'm not even looking to condemn these people, because that's calling the sky blue as well. I'm looking to go into more discussions of like why these things are happening. Just kind of looking at the configuration of it, and I think the communitarianism discussions was a good start on that too, because it really starts to go into dichotomy and dialectic. Not so much about the perpetrators, but just like how that works, how that little mindfuck virus works. And the more we can know about that, just the easier it'll be for us to be able to step outside of that and create the positive change we're looking for. And there's definitely a cool new like parable that I'm going to give an abridged version to that Cryon shared recently that is really awesome. But first, I think each and every one of us here have our stories so far of how, as we've been moving out of 2019 and into 2020, the things we've faced, and we've been forced to expand, forced to drop, more of the counterproductive stuff that we were clinging to, the fire lit up under our ass, and really forced to move more into the positive, productive direction. And I really think that, especially for this, I think it would be appropriate to start with Kristen, because she's been really doing that like a boss. So I'm going to shut up and let her talk.
Okay. So I just want to start off by saying I haven't really necessarily tried to think out how I wanted to put this into words, but basically I have been coming up against like some conflicts in my interpersonal relationships and my living situation that have been there for a couple of years now. And just as far as these specific problems, really, like my whole life, I've had similar problems. Like, basically, it comes down to this issue regarding codependency and trying to basically come to terms with two different things. So for like me, it's what this other person, what they want and what they need, conflicting with what I want and what I need. And then also, like, just realizing that sometimes when we're wanting or needing something, it's not always from a healthy place necessarily. Yada yada. So, really, I've just been basically like having to realize that as much as I've had low self-esteem, fears about not knowing how my life's going to turn out, not knowing what's going to happen, not being able to control situations, that I still have to choose who I am and choose what to do anyways, simply for the sake of who, like, because I want to make the choice. And like, a big thing is realizing that as much as I love someone and as much as they love me, you sometimes will have to be the one to make judgment calls where you have to place your needs first, and you'll have to be the one to set a different tone in your relationship or a situation where things have been going the same way and they've been going the same way. And like, instead of using that as an excuse to keep doing more and more of the same thing, you choose to change it. You choose to meet your own needs, and then also realize, like, just some of the things I had always thought were my needs weren't really, like, just, I don't know, it's kind of like an identity thing. Just, like, choosing who you are, choosing what your identity is, and staying strong to that, no matter what else happens. And like, I know with this being the year of expansion, it's just gonna keep coming up more and more of like, well, what you are is going to expand. What, like, the core of who you are, the core of every situation, it's going to expand. So, like, it's my job to choose what I want to expand. Do I want it to be more of like my baggage and my toxic shit, or do I want it to be like parts of myself that I actually would like to see grow and my living situation? So just a lot of like choice points that are outside of a comfort zone. Just and it's really hard because the truth is, you don't know what's on the other side of that. It could be like the miracle you're looking for, or it could mean a collapse of something you think is what you need. But either way, it's just kind of got to happen.
I think one of the challenges too, and I can definitely speak to this, and especially recently, and I know you and Richard both are going to know what I'm alluding to, that even when you're having some difficulty, like let's say within a friendship, and there's some contrast and there's some collision, and maybe the other person is kind of being a bit foaming at the mouth, if you know what I mean, that it doesn't mean there's no truth in what they're saying. You
Right.
both know what I've experienced recently, and like, yeah, even though what I was at the receiving end of. Oh my God, I'm not even going to get into details, but you know, the other person still had a lot of valid points to make, and you know, it's totally aligned with how where life has been directing me as well, and through the end of 2019 and in the beginning of 2020, for me there's just been a lot of dropping of things that don't serve and moving into more things that do. I mean, we had some contrasty circumstances here with the power company that has now empowered us and pushed us into getting solar. I haven't announced this on any PSEC episode yet or anything, so this is a cool thing to announce on this episode. We're going solar. We're essentially going to have no electric bill. I mean, there's going to be a line charge, but it's almost like not having a bill at all anyway. And the system that's being set up is going to be really cool. If there's any surplus power at the end of the year, ComEd will just cut us a check for whatever the residual is. Otherwise, it's just going to be tit for tat, credit for credit. Power used, power given, that sort of thing. And also, it's going to have a 25-year warranty, and there's going to be this thing to where I can refer anybody in the country, in the entire United States. Like, let's say hypothetically, Jasmine, you had your own place. Well, you kind of technically have it now, but and let's say your family wanted to go to do the solar thing, right? Well, I could call up the person who hooked me up and say, hey, I need you to go to South Carolina, talk to Jasmine's family, and see if they want to get hooked up with solar. And if
That's funny.
if they get hooked up with solar, I get $1,000 referral check for making that happen. That's one of those cool abundance things too. And there's more I could say about it, but I'm not. That'll be a whole other episode. I'm not going to harp on it. But the point is, there was this negative contrast with changes within the power company that inspired this move into solar. And there's all sorts of discounts and rebates and things like that. State rebates. My dad's going to get a veteran's discount because he's fully disabled, and like all this other stuff factoring into where not only is it super cheap, 25-year warranty, like it's all good. So there's this expansion into the positive through the facing of that negative. The negative being ComEd is Illinois' power cartel, criminal cartel. And even though you can't really fully escape the grid, especially in Chicago, there are still certain things you can do. And being able to get solar and having virtually no power bill and a 25-year warranty on it, that's awesome. Negative circumstances prompted that, but it was still a positive result. It was viewing the negative as a positive opportunity for positive change. That's the direction we're moving into. And the collision that I had with that friend, has just kind of shown me that, even though I've done, basically okay with going from where I was to where I am with my diet, I still need changes and improvements. So I'm going to be ditching soda. It's going to be juice and water for me, and other various improvements. And this collision with this friend of mine, it just validated that for me. Like, I didn't see them as being nasty. Well, like, yeah, they were being a little, but still I saw through it and saw to the valid points and let it inspire me and validate. Okay, yeah, I think it would be a good idea to make this move that I was considering in the first place. Yes, Jasmine.
Okay. You were talking about my family wanting to get solar. We have actually had a couple electric companies wanting to put solar panels on our roof and stuff. My dad is completely against solar. Completely against solar power.
Why?
I don't know why. He just is. It's like whenever my mom or anyone asks him if he wants to get solar panels or anything, he's just into like, no, absolutely not. I don't know why.
Do you think it's going to cause like UV radiation's going to pour through the solar panels and onto them and cause cancer or something? What?
I don't know. But
That is like the ultimate in misery crack. Like, yes, instead of being liberated in my
mom would like
my
it.
energy generation and usage, I want to continue to be enslaved by power cartels because I love bending over and taking it like a bitch because that's just my misery crack and what I love to do. Fuck anything empowering. Screw solar. Forget it. In fact, I drink oil for breakfast with my eggs and bacon. Go petrol, go, 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 with a little nuclear on the side for some extra radioactive vitamins. What fuck solar?
Yeah, I know. I don't know why he's like that. He's really weird. He's a child in a man's body. Yes, that's all I
Richard, are
can
you
say.
still here? Like, oh, there he is. Okay, I saw. Like, I
I was
didn't
about
see
to
him
say,
on.
where'd he go?
Okay, he was just off to the side, I think, because I see hands
Yeah,
moving and things going on
yeah,
here.
same.
So, so what's
Metatags.
what experiences have you been having, Jasmine, as far as letting go of old patterns and seeing things as an opportunity for positive change? Like, I know that your relatively new friendship with Lauren has been a part of that. You've been getting a lot of practice, being a friend and giving love and accepting a friendship. And I know that you guys have both been helping
Yeah,
each other expand and grow as.
dealing with
So,
feisty ones.
Yeah.
so I mean, I think that's been very positive for both of you, and I'd
Yeah.
love to hear more about that from both of you if you both don't mind sharing.
Not at all. I don't mind.
One big thing that uh and Lauren, you'll know what I'm talking about, is learning that it's okay if you have friends that just can't be friends. It's okay if people just don't mix well together. It's okay if you have two friends that just can't get along. It's okay. Because people are different. People have their own different problems, and there are just some people you just can't help. There are just some people that you just can't make be friends. So I've stopped doing that. So that's helped me like be okay that to it just be okay with it not being okay.
Absolutely, like on the grander scale, that's really what world peace would be. If everybody had the wherewithal to know that if you don't get along with someone, just stay the fuck away from them. It's not about trying to get everybody to think the same way, to believe the same things, to like each other. It's just about that respect. Like, okay, they don't like me, I don't like them. So if we don't fight with each other and we stay away from each other, there's peace. There's,
Yeah.
like
It's like sometimes the best thing to do is just to not come in contact with each
Yeah.
other very much at all.
Yeah.
It's not bad or horrible or negative if two people
Yeah, it's just
don't resonate. It doesn't make any of them the
they
bad
just
guy,
don't
make any of
mix.
them the villain. Yeah. And, like, neither of them are the bad guy. Neither of them are the villain. There's
Yeah,
just
neither of
there's
them.
no compatibility. But that's okay. And
Yeah, they're just
the idea that
different
somehow
kinds
that's
of
not
people.
okay, that's pure narcissism.
Yeah, and I don't have to stop being friends with one or the other. I can still be friends with both and hang out with them.
So many more
I just can't. I just can't have
Talk to
they.
both of us at the
No,
same
so,
time.
yeah,
so,
I can't.
so
I
many
can't.
so many more
Yeah.
wise Generation Z people than millennials. Good Lord. But yes, please do continue. Lauren, you have anything to add on that?
Uh, not that I can think of at the moment.
You learned anything this year?
I've learned anything this year. You mean 2019?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like moving into this year of
Yeah.
expansion, like the viewing the negative as a positive opportunity, letting go of things that no longer serve, moving into things that are better for you, that expansion, that true genuine positive change.
Well, for one thing, I am not gonna continue going to college because I don't feel like I should waste money on something that because I want to be like in history and basically it's the same damn thing. It doesn't matter how you teach, it's the same dang thing. Same dang events happen. And I'm also working and getting a job at the museum I volunteer at and looking at other volunteer positions and other places that I'm interested in, like the theater and that kind of thing. Because I love theater, I love live theater. I think it's very important that people go and see live theater and to keep that tradition alive instead of going to movies and wasting your money on something that, you don't know if it's gonna be good or bad.
Yeah, I think actor is a good job for you.
Yeah, I love acting. I'm really comfortable in standing in front of people and giving a speech. I don't get panicky about it. The only time I get panicky is when I sing in front of people, and that's very few and far between. Yeah. But I'm the only one in my family.
I like it.
Thank you. I'm the only one in my family who can carry a tune in a bucket. You should hear us when we're singing Happy Birthday. Sounds like a funeral dirge. We're all out of tune.
Same here.
I would love to hear
Whenever anyone is singing Happy Birthday, I'm the one who's always the troll and sings it like this. Happy birthday to you. You live in a zoo. You look like a monkey. And you smell like one too. Because I have to add a little levity to the funeral procession of happy birthday, happy birthday, just like I gotta add a little bit of funny to it to round out the monotone going through the motions. Yeah,
you gotta make it comedic when everyone else is just flat dull.
Yeah, and to what you were saying too, Lauren, it reminded me of a story that Vinny Eastwood once told on a past PSEC episode,
Well, an example I can cite is my former co-host on the Vinny Eastwood show. Like maybe 5 years ago, I think he left the show, and he was talking at the time about doing a thing called Infomatrix in New Zealand, infomatrix.com. And he says, I got to do it perfectly, I got to do it right, and I got to do it absolutely 100%, the right way. It's got to be good. It's got to be good. And I met him about a week or two ago, and I said, so what are you doing now, bro? And he goes, I'm working in a cafe, and I've still got a whole bunch of projects in my head and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, you just spent 5 years. What have you got to show for it? Mm-hmm. It's the bravery, just trusting in yourself to just go out and do it, 3 sheets to the wind, whatever comes, wherever the chips fall, just take responsibility for it. But the first thing that you have to do is just trust your instincts and trust yourself. Otherwise, you are perpetually in this sort of third-party perspective where you're trying to look at everybody as how they perceive you, right? And it's the opposite way. You're supposed to look at everybody and perceive them your own way, and you're supposed to act like yourself. And I noticed this very poignantly whenever I've gotten up to speak at, say, heavily socialist or heavily right-wing sort of party meetings or something like this, and I want to say something conspiratorial. I try to tone it down, to dumb it down, so to speak, or try to go after like a few isolated little thingies. And I found I get tongue-tied, because if I can't express myself in the way that I normally do, and I'm trying to please everybody else, I can't speak or think clearly.
That's happened exactly to me as well.
Yeah, I've had that same exact thing happen.
Yeah.
And it's when you're comfortable, ultimately, in front of the microphone, in front of the audience, that you really come into your own, and that's why it's called coming into your own. It's like somebody comes up and they're like, oh, we're going to save your life. This is going to be good. We're going to teach you how to do this, that, and the other. We're going to give you this education. It's only going to cost you $50,000 in debt that you'll never be able to pay off. It'll be a great education. My mate Daryl, talked to him the other day, and I said to him, bro, how many years have you been studying? And he goes, I've been studying for 7 years. Oh, okay. And how much debt have you got there? About $50,000. And how much equipment have you got where you can actually apply all those video and audio editing skills to? And he goes, well, I've got none of it. So I go, well, what if? Just open your mind real wide. It's just, what if you got yourself into debt and bought a whole bunch of equipment that you could actually do? How much equipment would 50 grand get you? And he goes, well, I'd be totally set up. I'd virtually have my own studio. And I go, exactly. prioritizing spending money on an intangible education that is based upon the use of equipment that you can't afford because you paid for an education how to use it. I say, get the equipment first and use it. There's your fucking education.
Yeah, no kidding.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just like the idea that, in order for the human brain to be capable of processing information, you need to be physically sitting in an institution called a school. Otherwise, if you're anywhere else, then your neural networks are just going to lock up and freeze, and you'll be unable to learn unless the almighty gods of media and government and everything have you in this physical building that will magically allow those neural networks to unlock and process. But otherwise, nope, sorry, if you're not in a physical building, well, your brain can't learn anything. And it's like, what the fuck? And as far as what you were saying about, the whole, this needs to be a certain way, I've noticed that in both the so-called truth and the spiritual movements too, especially within internet radio. It's starting to almost get like similar to the mainstream, whereas before they were like, oh, who cares about, professionalism, who cares about, aligning with the status quo, who cares about ratings, this, that, and the other. It's more important to just speak your truth. And then not too horribly long ago, and I'm not going to name names or drop names or anything like that, but I'm just going to say that there was somebody within radio who was basically commenting to me privately about PSEC and me and Katerina and Rich and everybody and all what we're doing. And this guy was like, well, Dave, you have no content. You need some content. And I'm like, no content, really? I've got this whole YouTube channel full of stuff, this, that. So how do I not have content? It's like, well, you're not. And I'm summarizing this. You're not sticking to mainstream, guidelines, and there's ratings to consider, and people need to be kept interested, and this needs to be in this specific format, and that needs to be this, and this anal format here, and this strict protocol there. And this was a guy who would previously be getting on air saying, none of that matters. It just matters speaking your truth and being yourself and the human awakening. And now it's like, well, Dave, you don't have any content because of blah blah blah. And then he went so far as to tell me, and Katerina doesn't need you to babysit her anymore. She doesn't need a guru. She can fly free on her own. This person apparently has no idea of the understanding that someone like me and Katerina could actually, honest to God, be friends, and that she doesn't work for me or beneath me. We work with each other as equals. We have a deep, close, legitimate friendship, and we also work together on projects. And in that stuffy, professional, ratings are more important type of thinking, these ideas just cannot be understood by people. It's just like, friends? That can't happen. What do you think, we're humans? No, we're robots in a machine. Yeah. We can't have human relations.
It's not about doing it as good as someone else. It's doing the best that you can do, right? Like, I listen to a lot of other shows, watch a lot of things, and comedians and what have you, and I allow them to inspire me, and I allow them to show me different things and different paths that I can go down and search out. And speaking, thinking, talking, the whole 9 yards of it. Whenever you're in talk radio, it's about insight, and you sit there every single day, like I've been doing, 5, 6, 7 days a week for like 5 years, and you get better as each show progresses, only just a little bit better. It's kind of like watching a child grow. You don't notice the difference from one day to the next, but if you don't see them for 6 months, they're very, very much larger, right? So you go back and listen to my 2010 archives, and then you listen to, say, a show I did yesterday, and you can see massive improvement. Now, it doesn't mean I had anybody telling me what to do. It just means that I can listen to myself from an objective standpoint and think, I can improve, tweak that little bit here. It's what my somewhat fabulous former producer used to call plussing. Whenever you go to give somebody feedback about a show they're doing, you don't give them negatives. You don't say you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing that. What you do is you do pluses. You go, you should do a little bit more of that. You can improve on that little puppy right there. And what it does is it creates a positive multi-spectrum path for you to develop on and evolve as a radio show host. And if you're very concerned about it, overly concerned about it, you become afraid of what you'll say. And that is not a good thing for a radio show host to be. They need to be courageous. They need to be brave. They need to speak the truth regardless of what consequences there are for it, because the radio show host knows that not speaking the truth has far dire consequences than just repeating it, you know?
Exactly. That's why it was such a shock when this person, approached me like that, because my previous impression of them is that, they were the courageous type that was just going for the truth. And, within that incident with this person, they also went so far as to say that, the people that, some of the people that I've had on that were just expressing about, their own shifts and their own dichotomies and dealing with life, and that, they've been inspired to face and clear these things and to continue to improve and, not let society get them down and so on and so forth. He proceeded to tell me that is whining. Oh, there's people there are whining. Yet he's had exactly the same, sorts of people on, what he's done that, have gone on, similar rants, like, gone on all the societal dichotomies and their own internal malware, and then stating what they've learned, that, despite all this, this has taught me to become more empowered in this area, and, to not give up and keep going and so on and so forth. So he was always kind of, an advocate of that sort of expression.
Can I say something here? Here's the problem with putting people on a pedestal. Every single person that you put on that pedestal is a human being that is inherently flawed. And a day will come when they fall from that pedestal that you put them up on, and you're the one who actually gets crushed when they come tumbling down, not them. So don't put them up, all right?
There's also a documentary anybody can look up on YouTube called I think it's called The College Conspiracy, and no, it's not some conspiracy theory video. It's more like an economic thing that goes into details about colleges and college debt and like the whole, the flaws with that system, and so many people spend all this money, and all it ends up being is a waste of money.
From the time an American child reaches the 6th grade, they are taught that the key to success in life is to do well in high school so that they can get accepted to the best possible college. The better grades they get in high school, the better college they will have an opportunity to get into. They are taught that if they get into a great college and get their college degree, any type of job they desire in the field of their choice will be there waiting for them. After getting their dream job, they will be able to buy any car and house they desire, start their own family, and live the American dream. Most Americans today have an expectation of future economic success simply by obtaining a college degree. The entire purpose of elementary school is to prepare students for high school, and the entire purpose of high school is to prepare students for college. In fact, the U.S. now has hundreds of private college preparatory high schools that, at a cost of $25,000 per year, are supposed to increase students' chances of getting into a top-tier college. Students are taught to believe that if they don't go to college, they will be on a path to nowhere and will have no chance of ever building a successful career. Government regulations like No Child Left Behind have left grade and high schools in shambles. Instead of teachers having the freedom to think outside the box and use creative techniques to prepare their students for the real world, they are forced to be narrow-minded and teach with worthless information that will never help their students have successful careers. Today, there are no high schools left in America that teach students the knowledge necessary to start their own business, invent their own product, or even how to use the internet and other free resources to become educated about things without attending college. The annual cost to attend the average private four-year college in America today is $27,293, up 29% from 5 years ago, during the 2005-2006 school year, when the annual tuition cost $21,235. This does not include the cost of textbooks, which have tripled over the past decade. Colleges are now charging $200 for each single textbook that has no resale value because they put out new, slightly revised versions with a new name each year. The textbook publishers are even colluding with college bookstores to make custom textbooks so that students can't save money by buying them online. Colleges are getting kickbacks from publishers in order to destroy the used textbook market, which by itself is proof enough that college administrators are only interested in lining their own pockets and have no interest in helping their students.
Like, yeah, if you want to be like a heart surgeon or a lawyer, like something that really requires it, like, yeah, I do not want anybody operating on me that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, have those degrees in that collagen and all that. Otherwise, get the fuck away from me. But when it comes to most things, you don't really need the college. People just have forgotten they're capable of learning. Just like spend the money on the tools you need and then learn how to use them. And then once you learn how to use the tools, then you can go into doing what you need to do. So you make a completely valid point. With the history stuff, like you said, you could work at museums, and as you learn about all this history stuff, you could even set up, whether it's YouTube, a library, or BitChute, or wherever, like you could set up your own educational channels and stuff. Like once you get like a halfway decent laptop, and I help you put Linux on it. With speaking of Jasmine, a disk, please, a blank disk. That's all we need for this, man. But if you go in that direction. And and you could download all the free tools that are free to make the content and everything, and then you take that history knowledge and you start putting together videos on all of the stuff that you're into, and you put that out there for people, and you can launch it that way.
I actually do have 2 videos on my YouTube channel that are history related. One is over the uprising in Poland. I completely forget about it. I don't know why I'm forgetting about it, but I did it as like a substitute for paper from our World War II teacher. He didn't accept it, but he did watch it. He said, it's good, it's very accurate, but I'm still not accepting it for a grade. But I'm thinking...
Well, you should.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because I had everything. I had proper citations, I cited all the photos I used, did it properly, and then I made one on D-Day, and I did the exact same thing, where I just narrated, like what led up to D-Day, the events of D-Day.
That kind of like academic tomfuckery in the face of creativity reminds me, and Richard will remember this, and he probably knows what I'm about to say. I forgot the details, but he had to do like a paper on something, and like everybody else in the class just did like a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint or whatever it was. It was very bland, but the teacher said, be as creative as you want. Do whatever format you want. So apparently Richard got more creative than academia likes as far as creativity. We did a PSEC episode. So it was
it wasn't a paper. It was a final project.
Okay. Well, so whatever it was,
it was for my speech and communications class in college.
Yeah. So we did a video presentation while everybody else did the bland PowerPoints and whatever, and his teacher got a little triggered by that.
Yeah, I told my professor, I'm saying, hey, I'm shit at writing papers. I know you don't like reading them because you professors take freaking forever to grade them, and we don't like writing them. So I'm gonna give you something that will hopefully keep your interest and also provide a lot of interesting details. And he is like not accepting it. Yeah, and even on like his, because at the end of the semester they allow us to do like reviews on teachers. I say, did not accept my awesome video, and I left a link in it in case anybody reviewing it wants to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a part of the big problem in academia. It's like, you know, a lot of these so-called teachers, so-called professors, they'll kind of lead their students in like, oh, be creative, express yourself, do this, do that, and it's allowed. And then when anybody has the audacity to do something beyond bland, mediocre bullshit and actually gets creative, then the professor's like, I'm not accepting that. That's you triggered me. Yes, Shazin.
I was gonna say, like, also, Dave, I'm thinking of getting that disc once I get my own room.
Okay. Well, whatever you want to do. Just I wasn't really sure what the issue with getting the disc was, because it's kind of a simple thing. Once you have we could burn the Linux to it, and then I could help you just like I did the other laptop. It's just you have a new laptop.
Do I just need to send a copy of a blank? Do I just need to send?
No,
send
I'm
a
pretty
blank
sure we
disc in
do
the
have a
mail?
blank disc. I'm pretty sure we do have a blank disc somewhere. I just want to wait until I get my own room because I'll already be busy and I'll already be
Whatever you want to do.
getting a bunch of new stuff for that. So I'm thinking,
Yeah.
why not have a new system for my laptops as well?
Well, whatever
new stuff,
whatever
feel
you want
great.
to do. All else I was going to say is that the reason we need a new blank disk, like as opposed to the disk we
Yeah,
use
I
to
know.
install Linux on the
I
other one,
understand.
is because newer laptop can handle the newer Linux, and the newer Linux is the better Linux. So, you know.
Not really. I like
Newer disc.
18.1 better.
Well, he likes the interface better, but as infrastructurally, like there's a whole like section of software that's available for Linux Mint 19.1 onward that is not at all available in the repositories for the 18 point whatever. So like there's this entirely new cool software section. And like that's definitely one of the things I like about the version 19 point, you know, series of it. The only thing I don't like about the 19-point series of it is probably the main same thing that Richard doesn't like, is that before with the version 18 point whatever, you can have bars like on the top and the bottom with program icons and things, whereas with 19.1 you can only have that on the bottom, and you can't have that on the top, and I don't know why they did that.
Well, that's weird because I have two bars on the top and the bottom, and.
But I mean, for the programs, like, you know, like the bar where you can actually pin program icons.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I used to be able to do that on the top and the bottom, and now, you know, you have to pick one, top or bottom. Like, you can position anywhere on the screen that you want, but the point is that I was able to do it with both at the same time, and now I can only do it with one. But that's a minor thing to me.
Well, the problem is also on Linux Mint 19.1 is there, depending on the web pages, some web pages have trouble loading with 19.1, like the interfaces don't work quite right within the browsers, and I've noticed just some really weird problems. Like the other day I was trying to do money transfer stuff on a website that I use through my school and whatever, and I was trying to enter in my connecting information with my other bank account. The thing would not load. It wouldn't allow me to even type anything in. It was being all weird. I went on 18.1. It worked no problem. So
I have not experienced that at all on
well, I
anything.
have, and it's annoying.
Weird.
And not only that, I've been having trouble with my Bluetooth on my laptop with 19.1, and my phone isn't detecting the laptop. My laptop isn't detecting the phone. I don't know what the heck's going on.
That's weird.
That's the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is Jasmine, on the off chance that 19.1 gives you any kind of troubles, we can always just go version 18.3. Like we hooked you up before with it was either 18.1 or 18.2. We could always just go.
I think it was 18.2.
Okay. We could always just do 18.3 if
What's the difference between 18.1 and 18.2 and 3?
Various improvements and upgrades and things. Like you'd literally have to go through the documentation and, like, you know, compare everything. And like I don't want to get into this big 15-minute long segment about the differences between all the different Linux versions. Like if y'all ever want to have a PSEC discussion just about like Linux, like I'm like fucking A, I'm good. We can do that. But
Honestly, I don't really mind if it's just one taskbar. Is that it? Just like one is like, is that the one thing you don't like that you said?
Well, no, like you can put the bars anywhere, but you know the thing where you can pin the icons for the different applications? Well, on Linux Mint 18.1, 2, and 3, you can have a top and bottom bar do that. In other words, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can do both. You could have some on the top, some on the bottom. Whereas with the version 19 point, that series, it's top or bottom, but not both.
I'm fine with that. I'm honestly.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that irks me about it, but it's really a minor thing. It doesn't really bother me.
I'm good with that.
So Richard, as far as your expansions and facing contrast and viewing it as a positive opportunity and your processes within that, I think we should have Richard talk now, because I think everybody has talked but Richard at this point on this. Richard needs to say some stuff, and I need to shut up.
Well, last 3 months, I mean, this whole 2020 has been, or 2019 has been very interesting. So when I started out last year, I was still working the same old job that I've been working for the last 4 years at the truck stop. And then come March, I got employed by Mercy Flights. Worked for them for about a month, summarily fired by Mercy Flights, then got another job at Fred Meyer, been working there since. So been bouncing back and forth with employers, been really kind of fascinating, in and out and all of that stuff, but making it just fine. The real jump into my year of expansion is regardless of the failure in the earlier part of the year. I rebounded from it, I dusted myself off, and I am currently with the Rogue Community College paramedic program right now. It is a 12-month program. I'm currently getting ready to go into month 4 of this long process, or month 5 actually, somewhere around there. Anyway, about to go into the winter term. I just got done with my first 3 months in the program. Passed this term with all A's, straight A's. And my big expansion so far has been jumping into the healthcare industry and working my way towards getting my paramedic licensure and certification, getting my associate's degree, and finally finishing this long journey that I've been on with school. And this year, if everything goes well, I will graduate the program. I will go for a 3-month internship out in the field with Mercy Flights yet again, and just run calls and gain all my field internship experience on top of all the hospital clinical stuff that I've been doing, working at all the local hospitals, working in the operating room with anesthesiologists. I've been in the OB a few times. I've gotten to see a C-section, gotten to see a natural birth and delivery. I still have to get and see one more. But the point is, I've been getting out there, getting into the community, into the healthcare community as a student, getting hands-on with patients, doing physical assessments, vital signs. This term just started practicing my skills, so doing IVs, giving medications, hanging IV lines and bags and everything else, and assisting the healthcare teams in care of patients, observing doctors. So this whole year has just been a complete growth and expansion phase. It's been a complete jump for me in terms of confidence. I've been faced this term with so many different challenges and obstacles to overcome, just overwhelming amounts of coursework, overwhelming amounts of lab assignments, overwhelming amounts of clinical expectations, and I've been able to overcome them. And to top off the end of this term, I had pneumonia and didn't study at all through Thanksgiving. I was sick as a dog and down for the count, and I still scored the highest in my class on the final exam. I passed my skills finals. I mean, so safe to say this term has been a confidence booster for me, and just seeing what I've been able to do this term just gives me confidence going forward into this year that I'll be able to complete this program. I'll be able to see it through. I'll be able to get it done, and I'll be able to get out there in the healthcare field and work as an ER tech in the hospital, and, you know, start moving forward with my goals and start going towards what I want to do later down the road, not only as a healthcare provider, but eventually, you know, have the financial ability and incentive and resources and income to be able to pursue my longer term goal of becoming a pilot, getting into aviation, and, you know, pursuing my dreams of becoming a man who flies airplanes and pursues the ultimate passion of aviation itself. So yeah, this year has been a real expansion, as it will, the end of the year of light into this energetic run up to the year of expansion. You know, it's just kind of set me up for the year of expansion, just that explosive growth going forward and just achieving goals and being the change that I want to see in my own environment, doing what I need to do for myself and creating a better environment for myself, and by extension those around me who, you know, want to be a part of that journey with me. So yeah.
Another thing that's really cool, like on the world stage level of things, because of all the tomfuckery, not going to get into the details, but just going to say because of that contrast and that overreach, all of the alternative social media and alternatives to YouTube and Facebook and things like that have been getting a massive boost, and even among what you might call the normie population, the people that don't really know or care about anything political or what's going on, but they're even starting to be irked by this stuff, and it's been causing this massive flood of new users into Minds, into BitChute, into LibraryNet. Like there's no way to know the exact figures, but rough estimates are basically 10,000 plus new accounts daily on all these different services, because that fire has been lit. And it's just yet another example of, you know, you've got the negative contrast, and it can lead to this positive expansion, because moving into these alternative platforms that support freedom of speech, and especially the ones that are decentralized, Web 3.0, that sort of thing, like, it's really good. Like, you know, we need to evolve the internet in this direction. It's really good technology. It's really powerful technology. It's really beneficial. And I've even been seeing, like, a lot of larger channels move onto these platforms, like, you know, We Are Change, Luke Rudowski, you know, he's been on BitChute for a while, and I hadn't seen him, you know, move towards, you know, Library. So Max Egan, direct friends, you know, with Luke, I was just like, hey Max, you know, next time you get a chance to, you know, talk to Luke, because, you know, I know you talked to him directly. Could you please just let him know about Library, because I think he would really enjoy the platform. And, you know, I also directly talked to one of the developers who, you know, is involved with Library, and, you know, and he said he would love Luke Rudowski to get on there, like Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux and all these other people have gotten on there. It's like, man, I'd love it if we could get We Are Change on there too. So I was just like, well, you know, I asked Max to tell him about it. I can't make promises, but, you know, it's like, if the message is received, I don't see any reason why Luke wouldn't, you know, move forward to that. Well, not too long later, and, you know, just the other day, what do I see in the new trending whatever? Like, bam, We Are Change. Like, it's there. Like, it's there now. He he created the account, and his YouTube channel is synchronized and all that, and like he's got a lot of followers. So like I think that's really cool. Yet another demographic of people who can not only find out about library, but also all the people on library who might not know about We Are Change, who will like see that content pop up and be like, hey, cool, what's this? So these decentralized platforms and alternative platforms are even though they've been created in the face of this negative contrast, kind of like, hey, screw you YouTube, screw you mainstream, we're doing our own thing. Even though it's been birthed in that, it's just been really developing into increasingly more positive things. And it just keeps getting better and better and better, and like I just see it as a complete and total positive all the way across the board. Just it's really great to see this expansion and see things moving in this direction. And I just think it's a really great, wonderful, awesome, positive thing, and I'm very happy to see it. Kristen, any other thoughts? I'm pretty sure you're still here.
I've just been listening to everything. I'm really liking what you guys are hearing. I think it's just like, another thing for me, which I may have already kind of said, is just out of excuses to hold myself back or not be who I am, not go through uncomfortable growth, because there's just no denying it or avoiding it anymore. It's just kind of where I'm at. So I'm hoping that that's like what more people can get to that point as a group, because there's a lot of change that needs to be made.
Yeah, so you're seizing the opportunity and launching into positive changes for yourself, and some of them will be an uncomfortable growth process, but you also know that it's going to be positive and beneficial, and that business as usual can no longer continue. So it just kind of seems to be the dominating lesson, and it seems to be what we're all kind of being pushed into. So obviously the more things move in this direction, there's going to be people that want to hold on to the old structures and the old dysfunctional ways, and they're going to be tantruming as they have been, as they do, and that's going to be it's going to be way more intense. But I think that all of that intensity of the tantrumings of tyranny and whatever inappropriate behaviors they might decide to do in their hubris, I think in the long run it really only serves to benefit us, because it just kind of acts as excuse after excuse to move into that positive change. More and more people can say, hey, look at how yucky that's getting. We can't afford to have that like that anymore. So it's it's time for us to move into our power and to move into this this positive changes, and to get out of this learned helplessness and Stockholm syndrome and really embrace our power, and just have more of that I can do it attitude, instead of looking for saviors or wallowing in self-pity or whatever. Just that more genuine, empowered attitude, and knowing that just being able to admit to a problem and look at a problem in and of itself is not negative, is not nihilism, is not fatalistic, is not racist, is not bigoted, is not hate speech, is not is not any of that. It's just being able to look at something and say, hey, there's a problem here, but let's work together to solve it. We can do this. We can come together. We can get up off our butts. We can use our power, and we can just come together and collectively start to create all of this positive change that all of our selected misleaders and cult leaders and everything else just don't seem to want to do, because they're not working in our best interest. So it really is up to us, and I think that we're just going to keep moving more and more into that attitude, that it's not up to the Greta Thunbergs and the Donald Trumps and the Hillary Clintons and the George Soroses and whoever else. We've got to make the positive change that we want to see. It is up to us, and it's a good thing that it's up to us. It's a damn good thing, I think. I think we are the ones that should be doing it. It's very liberating. It feels good to put that effort into it and know that this positive change that happened, that like, wow, I participated in that. That feels awesome. I didn't need some babysitter to do it for me. I wasn't sitting there whining. I participated in this positive change, and we did that. go us, yay, So I think there's definitely going to be more and more of that attitude. We've been seeing it build, and in the contrast to come, there's just going to be more and more of it. I think we're going to be seeing, a lot of negative inspiring, a lot of even greater positive, and I think that overall it's going to be a good thing. Like Richard said, and like you said, uncomfortable growth, but it's going to be growth. It's going to be a good thing. And videos like this, people are going to shake their fists at it and go, "Oh, you're pointing this stuff out. You're triggering us. You're racist. You bunch of fucking white people and whatever." As like you're a white male. You're a straight white male. You have no room to talk. You're damaging my intersectionality. Whatever. It's just like, but let's not lower ourselves to that. Like, yeah, it's funny to like make fun of those people every once in a while, have a couple of laughs, but like, let's not embrace Clown World. See this honkler pin, this weapon of mass destruction, this Clown World pin here with my BitChute shirt. That's just an acknowledgement of where we're at. That just like, look, we're at this position. It's Clown World. It doesn't have to stay Clown World. We can this fertilizer of Clown World can be used to grow this awesome garden. Like we can make the human experience like better than anything that anybody's ever seen, and it's going to be challenging, but damn it, we can do it. I think. Anybody else have stuff to say?
When I finally get a boyfriend, I'm gonna buy him one of those.
What the hell?
One of those pins.
What the hell? What the hell?
What do you mean when you finally get a boyfriend?
What the hell?
There's an availability right there. You're not too
What the
far
fuck?
off age. You're both adults.
You don't want to date a paramedic? You want to date a cool paramedic? You don't want to date a handsome paramedic, really? Wow.
With the Kekistanis. I mean, it's cultural appropriation.
Look at her. She's blushing already. It's like I just poked her with a needle and flirted with her and hung a 1,000-milliliter bag of like blushing compound, and she's just like,
but in a good way, not in that creepy incel way.
Yeah, might want to make that clear.
Incel. I'm gonna stick you with this needle, and then I'm gonna stick you with this needle, and by needle I don't mean this needle, I mean my needle.
With your one-eyed beard.
Here, I'll even make it even funnier. Why don't I do something here and actually show you people some things that, like, some of the tools of the trade here. I'm gonna look like a...
laugh, man. We gotta embrace that light-hearted laugh.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, it's needed, man. It's needed. Really needed.
Let's show some let's pull some IV equipment out here. I'm gonna look like an intravenous drug user, but that's okay. So right there's an extension set. So you got like a catheter port there, little tail port cover, yeah. And we fill these with saline, so we have like oh, that's an extension set. So
when you want to do the direct injection of Agent Orange with Roundup,
absolutely, that's just the way it bloody goes, right? You just inject yourself with whatever.
Yeah, that's a joke, not endorsed. Nobody actually goes do that, please. No.
Okay, so maybe this is the wrong bag. I think this is just for my needle stuff. I've got 2 bags here, yeah. Okay.
For your drug paraphernalia.
Yeah,
my practice drug paraphernalia, absolutely.
Kristen can catch the video of this later. She obviously can't see what we're seeing because it's on audio. She's coming through the traditional, phone company way of it, phone number.
Here we go. Here's the IV equipment. So constricting band. These we wrap around the arm. Mm-hmm. So, you just put it on your arm like so. Not going to actually do it, but you wrap it around the arm. You tighten it down. That way any veins that are distal to that band all the way up to the proximal point.
So for when Dr. Acula doesn't want to actually murder people, he can just directly inject the carrot juice.
So then we have some other things here. So we got like Vinegar Juniors. These are for what we hold the IVs down with. Tegaderms, which are a little bit different. And you got several different sizes of IVs. So you got different IV catheters here. So what is this one? 18 gauge. This is a little bit bigger. Should be doing this with gloves, but oh well.
So basically, the proper names for these gauges are a little bit of pain, a lot of pain, and pure agony. Like that's the proper titles for these.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, kind of. So like 18 gauges and 20 gauges are the standard. That's like what you're gonna see in the hospital. If you want sheer pain and large fluid volume, I will show you pain and large fluid volume. 22 gauges are for like super small veins. So
that'll make
22 gauge catheter is like super tiny and small. It's not very big.
Yeah,
that's like
Barack Obama's member, or are you describing what you're holding?
That's for older folks, people with fragile veins.
They're making my trypanophobia go off the charts right now.
Oh, don't worry.
Oh, is that a fear of needles?
Yeah, it's fear needles.
There's a 20 gauge.
He hasn't learned how to reach through the screen with that yet, so you're safe.
Well, here's something to alleviate. Here's something to alleviate. So the one thing that I can tell you that you won't really be able to see here that I can show you in person is there's the metal needle underneath which retracts. You see how this thing retracts? It's a safety mechanism. So the needle goes inside this plastic housing. What remains behind is a Teflon coated catheter. That's what is inside of the body, is the Teflon coated catheter. The needle itself does not stay within you.
Yeah, I actually know that because once ever in my life I did actually have an IV. So
well, I've had at least 15 or 20 in me because part of the rite of passage in our class is that we stick each other with IVs over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
But here, this. Now that is a 14 gauge needle. Look at that. That's large bore fluid volume right there. That's a nice horse needle, ain't it? Isn't that cute? Yeah, you can see the Teflon coated catheter.
I feel so bad for Lauren.
Yeah, that's a 14 gauge needle. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, that's enough to give Lauren nightmares for the next week.
Yeah. That's a 14 gauger. And we do not we will not stick somebody with this unless they're really sick and dehydrated, as in they are dying and they've got fluid pouring out through their skin or they're unconscious. You're most likely going to get an 18 or a 20, which is a standard needle, tiny poke, no big deal, you know. And we're gentle about it. We're not just walking up and say, "Hey, you got nice veins."
Yeah, and you know, when Richard said there's only certain things when Richard said there's only certain things that, you know, you could only see in person, that was kind of like, "Hey, Jasmine, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, future trip."
Anyway, so here's an extension set flush. So this is a 10 milliliter flush. This one I partially used already just for training purposes. I've got one here that's completely unopened, full flush. So that extension set, you take this little white guy off, you plug that into the other side, flush the set, and then you just flush with saline, and then if you need to push meds through the saline lock, you can after it's been secured with Tegaderm and everything else.
No actual heroin was used in the making of this PSEC episode.
Only one person was slightly traumatized.
Oh, you poor baby.
The only time I was ever okay with when they needed to take blood, I think it was for like my thyroid or something. I was sick, and I watched them take the blood. I'm like, cool.
No, no animals were harmed in the making of this PSEC episode,
Oh, and I had
except for that hat.
Peter's
nice
gonna come
and
after us.
fuzzy. Nice and fuzzy.
My brother has a fuzzy hat that he saw when we went to the Biltmore house, and he was like, "I have to get that hat."
When furry
It was one of those.
I have a beret coming in the mail, so in a few weeks I'll be wearing a green beret.
No, he's not really a comic.
I almost thought you were gonna say burp.
Okay.
I'm gonna be wearing a burp.
Okay. Parquet.
Parquet.
Parquet. See.
I can't believe it's not real communism.
Oh, habla inglés.
I can't believe it's not butter. It's real communism, yeah. Haha.
Viva la revolución de Cuba. I'm sorry, I don't speak retarded. He's speaking communism. They're the same thing. They're interchangeable.
Well, speaking of all that fun paradigmal stuff, does anybody want me to tell the abridged version of the Cryon parody called The Ship of Humanity? Now, the actual file that you can listen to the whole thing on Cryon.com is like 40 minutes long in and of itself. I'm not going to take that long, so seeing as that's the case, obviously spoilers, because I'm going to give the fast forwarded version. I'm not going to give the slow train version that Cryon did, but is a parable. It's called The Ship of Humanity. And you imagine this big wooden ship. It's a parable, it's a metaphor, obviously, but huge wooden ship, like makes an aircraft carrier look like nothing. The midway point where the water meets the ship is already 50 decks down. And then, it goes down even further. This is a metaphor of the ship of humanity. It's a wooden ship. It's the idea that this ship has always worked for us. Obviously the ship is representative of governmental systems and religious systems and all these other, various belief systems and things, that it's always been this way. It always will be this way. It's always worked for us. It's too big to fail. It'll, that kind of mentality. And then, of course, things start to shift and change, and these are positive shifts and positive changes. So everybody starts thinking, oh man, the ship is going to sink. The ship is going to sink. And yet no water ever comes up. There's no water. And it even gets to the point where the rats are moving up through the decks to the top deck and jumping off of the ship, and still no water's coming in. And it starts even getting to the point where you see wooden planks floating in the water. The planks, they're breaking off. They're floating in the water. It looks like the ship is falling apart, and yet there's still no water in the ship. And what the ending point is that the wood fell off to reveal the metal ship underneath. The metal ship, the solid ship. So when things are shifting out of this old wood negative structures that are based on all the tomfuckery that people have been complaining about forever, when it's moving away from that into things that are better, things that do serve, things that are more positive, things that are more benevolent, and things that are functional and that aren't all this criminality and scumbaggery, when all the old wood starts popping off, people are going to start thinking it's the end of the world. Oh my God, the climate change is killing us all. It's hate speech. The KKK is everywhere. The commies are everywhere else. People are just going to be losing their shit because the old paradigms are dissolving as the new paradigms are pushing through. The good paradigms, the better paradigms, the things that are more functional. People learning how to deal with each other in these more functional, more benevolent, more loving, more sane ways. So it's like, so this metaphor to describe 2020 and forward is that idea that the more the positive moves in, the more people are going to be flipping their shit. Oh my God, it's falling apart. It's falling apart. We're all doomed. And that, that's only just a perception, because what they're really seeing that they're losing is the old structures and the old paradigms. And these were the things that are causing all the problems for humanity in the first place. So it's like, out with the shit, in with the good, solid, stable stuff, but that contrasty process is just going to make a lot of people lose their shit. And so we need to be vigilant and realize what's happening and not lose our shit ourselves and be able to see it for what it is. Like, there's all this good stuff coming in, and it's creating a fucking shitstorm. But it can't help but do that, because there's so many people addicted to the old ways, the dysfunction. But we shouldn't follow their example. We should be aware of the new, positive, better changes coming in and be a part of that, and let Clown World go its own way.
Well said.
Very well said.
Is a really cool metaphor. Obviously, he gets into all this elaborate, detail, 40 minutes worth, just about. But mine was just a short little abridged version. But I still thought it was really cool. And Cryon's been talking a lot about this stuff lately for 2020, that we're going to see a lot more inappropriate things that corporations and governments are going to be doing. Like, the more light that you shine, the more you're able to see the dirt. But if you're able to see that dirt, you're able to clean it up, and that's a positive thing. That's a good thing. So we've just got to be vigilant in these times and turn all of this negative we encounter into the positive. We need to pan the shit to get out the gold nuggets and use those gold nuggets to make things better, if you will. And that's really going to be important in 2020 and for this whole next decade. It's going to be challenging, but damn it, we can meet the challenge. We can do this shit, and we're not alone. We have each other. We are not alone. Damn it, we do not have to do any of it alone.
Yeah.
Rightio, mate. You're talking about those Australian gold nuggets. Meanwhile, we need to pay attention to the fact that half of Australia's burned to the ground. You've got to tell that to the koalas. What kind of habitat are they going to have in 2020, eh? 80% of their habitat's gone.
That is a great accent.
That is great.
I love accents.
Here we can.
Blimey, I could take you out to Rich's place. It was actually renamed after Mick's place. They shot the poor bastard in 1996. They shot him right through the head. I remember old Mick. Real Crocodile Dundee. They shot him right in the head, they did. And then they took our guns.
Here we can witness the native morons burning Australia to the fucking ground. That's what native morons do. As they stand there going, what? What? Ollie wants a cracker?
This is the great thing about getting older. You just accumulate hats. This hat I acquired from Millionaire Medford.
My Wisconsin Dells hat.
I got a couple hats.
I've
got this little sun hat.
Oh, she looks like such a cute and proper lady ready to go to the Kentucky Derby.
Aw.
Yeah. Needs more flowers and random stuff.
That it does. It needs more flowers and...
I have a fan somewhere. I have one of those fans somewhere. I forgot where I put it. Dang it!
She's just trying to show off for me.
No, I seriously have one of those fans.
No, I believe you. But she's got to show off.
Oh. I also have one of these caps.
Yeah, I remember. I remember one time. I remember one time.
That's a Alabama.
I remember one time.
Cattlemen's Association.
I remember one time a while back. I was talking to Jasmine. Her and I were on camera, and she started putting more clothes on. and her mom came in and was like, and started flipping her shoe like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, Jasmine, you're supposed to be taking them off, not putting them on. How dare you? You obey your mother. You know? You're an adult now, damn it. Take those clothes off this minute.
Supposed to strip the dress.
That's like a reverse striptease. Like it was weird. It's like as if your mother was getting mad at you for adding more clothes. Like as if you were supposed to be doing the opposite. You're an adult now, young lady. Now you strip down to your like what is this?
Hashtag clown world.
It's like, you're not supposed to change in front of a man. And I'm like,
you weren't changing. You were adding more.
I had shorts on.
You were adding more.
It would have been funnier if it had been. It would have been funnier if I'd had my Ushanka on and I would have gone. Duh, Jasmine, put more on. In Siberia, it is porn.
Or in Antarctica.
To make it hot, we just drink more vodka.
Oh, put it all on, baby. Put it all on. Throws money. Put it all on, baby. That's how we
Here, I give you Arctic Parka.
That's how the penguins roll, man.
That's how they roll.
Pack on the snow.
I wish I seriously knew where my fan was. I don't know what happened to it. It was a really pretty fan. I love it. And it even had a little slip of paper that went with it that said, like, different gestures mean different thing.
How you doing over there, Kristen?
Huh?
I said, how you doing over there, Kristen?
You'd be talking Kristen.
Is she still there?
I don't know. Is she?
I mean, the icon thingy is there.
There it is.
It's still connected. She
Found
might
it.
accidentally have the mute. She might accidentally have the mute button pressed. Like she's done that before.
That might be it.
Either that or she fell
No, I've done it a number of times. I guess she might have fallen asleep again.
Well, that's okay. I mean, let's face it. You know, she is in the Eastern Time Zone, just like you are. So it is 1:49 a.m. It's almost 2. So like Jasmine's probably going to be leaving soon anyway because of the time, and we've already said most of what we need to say anyway for this, like, you know, how much more year of expansion do we need to talk about in this particular video anyway? All throughout the year, we're going to be discussing very specific discussions and dialectics and dichotomy and getting down to the brass tacks of things and how to shift the negative into positive and talking about very specific stuff. This is just more the general, like, you know, the looking back at the past, this is where we've come from, and now this is where we're going, and it's going to be an interesting ride. So it's not meant to get into every little detail of every little thing. That's not what this is for.
Well, I'm gonna leave the chat because I sleep is calling my name.
I don't blame you one bit. So
that's
final thoughts, everybody. Anybody have any final thoughts to say about this, about anything?
Nope.
Night.
Alrighty.
She just left. Okay.
Well, I mean, we're still going to keep this, you know, this chat open for, you know, even beyond the PSEC episode ending for whoever may or may not want to stay. But as far as ending the PSEC episode, well, everybody, you know, thank you for watching.
I think I'm going to go ahead and leave too. It's almost 2:00.
Yeah. Well, I know if you were going to stay, it would have only been like another 10 minutes. But good night. Catch you later, Jasmine. So, yep, very appropriate. We're just kind of winding everything down. So, yep, anyway, everybody, thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had some fun and we've inspired you to, you know, view any of this upcoming contrast and tomfuckery. It's just an opportunity to just really be that positive change that you want to create. And just remember, it does not make you a nihilist or a fatalist or negative. to point at a problem. It's like it doesn't make you any of that to say, hey, you know, there might be a fire one day, so may as well just have a fire extinguisher. Oh, by the way, that reminds me, before we wind down, that story I think you said about your father and because he had a fire extinguisher. I think that'd be a good.
Yeah, he was driving up Sardine Creek, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago. This was a long time ago. It was a while ago. I remember it was a long time ago. This might have even been longer than that. It might have been 10 years ago. I don't remember. I just remember one time he was driving up Sardine Creek and came around the corner, and there was a little brush fire that was just getting ready, just starting right on the side of the roadway. Who knows what caused it? Could have been arson, could have been any number of things. Anyway, he had his fire extinguisher in the truck and stops the truck, jumps out, gets the fire extinguisher out, puts this little brush fire out on the side of the road, and, you know, saves his property that's only like 2 miles up the road, and saves a whole bunch of people's ups and downs, that whole thing, you know, saved an entire area and saved thousands of acres from potentially going up like kindling in the middle of the summer. So just proves that analogy is true. Just because you're carrying a fire extinguisher doesn't mean you expect fire, but you're prepared for it if it does occur.
Yeah, so unfortunately a lot of people have this attitude to where, like, if you simply point out, hey, there's a potential for fire, so it's good to have the fire extinguisher, all of a sudden, you know, it's like, oh my God, you're so fatalistic, you're so nihilistic, you're so negative, how could you talk like that, how could you view the world like that? And of course on the more extreme ends, getting accused of being a bigot or a racist or whatever, but on the more mild end, your average normie, not like your total straight up SJW type, but just, oh my God, you're being so negative. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm not at all. I'm actually being very positive, because being mindful of potential problems or existing problems and thinking about solutions and being prepared and things like that is a very positive state to be in. And I think this false positivity to where people, you know, they're psychologically projecting and they feel that the situation is so hopeless that they can't even look at it. They can't even acknowledge it. They have to slander the truth tellers and look away in willful ignorance and say, you're being negative, in this false positivity. I think that is like literally the most negative, most nihilistic, most hopeless thing, you know, that a person can do. And a lot of people do that. And it's like, you know, I'm just going to stand up in the face of it. I'm just going to call it what it is, just like I'm saying right here. And if anybody wants to think I'm being hateful or racist or whatever, well, okay, that's your right to your perception, and you know, I respect that. If that's what you want, you know, cool, whatever. But I just think that the terrible attitude is the attitude of, I'm in such a state of hopelessness and fear that not only do I have to reject looking at data and reject solutions and you know, be in the state, but I'm going to cover it over with a false sense of positivity so I can hide my cowardliness and total moral bankruptcy from myself. So, you know, I'm just calling it as I'm seeing it. It's not a judgment. I'm not condemning anybody, but it is a sad situation, and I'm not gonna conform to it. I'm not gonna be yet another one who ducks my head down out of fear of the mob. You know, it's just like, I'm gonna call it for what it is. And that's what it is, and I think it's a very positive thing to call it for what it is, because I don't think the situation's hopeless. I think there's plenty of hope. I think there's plenty we can do. I think that we really can turn this around. I think we really can take the negative and turn it into positive things. So that's where I stand. Have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is in your neck of the woods, Chatelet, and fucking hope you enjoyed yourself. Be positive, the real positive, not the fake positive.
Have a real happy New Year.
Yep, have a happy New Year. Hope you had a merry Christmas and all that good stuff. So catch y'all later. Till next time. Till next week and Trigger the Trigglies. Later.
See ya.
Now everybody say you can't stand the bass. Take your